A long time ago, when the Buddha was still alive, there was a monk. He was very unfortunate. He was born and he grew up and he became a monk. But he was very unfortunate. All over his body, he had all these diseases. He'd have these little pus bubbles and they'd pop and he'd get all these sores and he'd be bleeding. And his body would always be smelling because all the pus and the liquids would mix with his jiwan and he would get really stinky. And his monk friends would feel like, ew, you smell, or ew, this is disgusting. And so they would stay away from him. He would feel like, oh, I'm so alone, I'm so lonely, but I'm in pain, no one's helping me. And he was very depressed, like very, very depressed. Not only that, his bones started getting very weak, so he would start breaking his bones very easily. So he's in pain all the time. One day, the Buddha, he has a special power. Every morning he wakes up, he enters deep meditation, and he uses his psychic powers to study the whole world and see who is the person who is the most deserving and ready for his help. And he saw that this stinky monk who was sick was the person who was ready for his help. So the Buddha went to where the monk was staying. And don't forget, all the monks were like avoiding him. The Buddha went into that stinky room all by himself. He used to be a prince, the son of a king. He's the leader of a religion. He has millions of students and followers. But he went into that room and visited the monk. The monk was shocked. The Buddha's in my room? And the Buddha's like, how are you feeling? He's like, not so good. He's like, okay, wait. The Buddha went outside, took a pot of water, filled it up with water, and heated it up on the fire. Then the Buddha started like cleaning up, helping him wash his clothes. And all the monks who used to say, ew, 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 they still felt the ew, like it's still ew. But on the other side, they're thinking, the Buddha is helping him by himself. If we don't help our teacher, how rude and how bad students are we? And so in their hearts, they're conflicted. One of them, they feel, ew, disgusting. But the other side is, that's my teacher. You cannot let him do the work by himself. That's so rude. That's a bad student. So all the monks rushed in and says, Buddha, Buddha, please, please, please. Can we help you? Can we help you? Listen closely. They're not trying to help the monk, but they want to help the Buddha. And so Buddha says, okay, everyone carry the bed outside into the sun so that the sun can help kill the germs. Everyone, help him take off his clothes and wash all his clothes that are stinky and dirty. Then the Buddha took the hot water, put it on a cloth, put it in the water, and then used it to wash the man's body. The man was laying there on the Buddha's lap with his head on the lap, and the Buddha cleaned him. And as the Buddha cleaned him, all the dirtiness went away, and the man felt calm. And then once he was calm, he started thinking, my whole life, my body has been a cause of suffering for me. It's been sick, it's been bruised, it's been leaking, and it's been causing all these problems. Why should I be attached to my body? And in that moment, he was able to release his attachment, and he became fully enlightened. After that, not too long, he died. And the Buddha ordered his remains, his body, to be cremated. But after they cremated him, this is a special miracle that only happens for arahants. They left crystals behind, little beautiful rocks and crystals. Instead of bones, it was crystals. And that's how you know if someone is truly an arahant or not. You cannot fake it. And so everyone was shocked. They were like, what? This stinky monk who was alone and depressed, he's an arahant? How is that possible? And they asked the Buddha, Buddha, what kind of karma did he do? Do you guys understand karma? What kind of past actions did he do that led to this? And the Buddha says, if you want to know, I will tell you. And he says, a long, long time ago, this man used to be a hunter. And he wanted to sell chickens and birds to the people. But he wanted the meat to be fresh. So he would capture the birds. Then he would break their wings. And then he would pull off all the feathers and stick them in a small little container. And the birds would just be in there shivering and suffering and dying. But he kept them alive so that he could sell the meat fresh and get rich and make a lot of money. That action is what we call in Buddhism evil. When you do something that hurts other people for your own benefit, when you kill, when you hurt, when you make other people feel bad for your benefit, that's not a good thing. That's what we call bad karma. And that bad karma will send results. And look what happened. His body was always broken. His body was always bleeding and leaking pus and was always dirty. That's the karma he got from his evil actions. But in order for him to become an arahant, he also did good things too. So what is the moral of the story? There's a lot of morals. If you guys promise not to yell, I want to hear what you guys think. What do you think the moral of this story? Which means, what does this story teach you? Achita.
I was first thinking if you realize what you've done, then you could actually learn from it instead of just thinking that you're fine, actually realizing what your problems are and that.
So who's the one who should be learning the lesson here? Who's the one who made a mistake who should learn from their lesson?
I think many people, because the monks who made fun of him, because that's also bad karma, and also the broken monk person, the main character.
Yeah. You know what's really sad also? You know what name they gave him? His mother gave him a name, which means Tissa. His name was Tissa, right? That's just the name. But you know what everyone called him? Puti Kata Tissa, which means Tissa of the stinky body. They gave him a nickname. Back then, when people had different issues, they would give you a nickname, like a teasing nickname. Is that nice? He's already bleeding, he's already broken bones, he's already suffering and crying every day. Does he really need a mean nickname too? Do you see how all the monks who gave him a mean nickname, that's gonna be bad karma too. What else did you think you learned from this story? Abby, did you have a lesson? What? What did you learn from this story?
Don't be rude or else it's gonna be karma in another life.
Everything that we do, don't just think about, do I want to do it? Think about what's the consequence. If this happens to me in the future, am I gonna want it? You see what I mean? If you don't want it, don't do it. Another very interesting thing that the Buddha taught here is the monks asked, Buddha, you are like the king. You are like the highest of the highest. Why did you come down here and clean the dirty sheets and boil water and clean his body? And the Buddha said something that made me, when I first read it, I started crying just because I never thought of it before. The Buddha says, guys, once you become a monk, you're part of a family. There's not a lot of us. And if we don't take care of each other, then who's going to take care of us? And think about that. In your families, there's what? Mom, dad, son, daughter. What, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people? That's your family. That's all you have. You don't have more family. That's your team. That's your homie. That's your family. That's all you have. And if you don't help each other and you don't take care of each other, who's going to love you? Who's going to take care of you if you don't protect each other? If you don't support each other? If you don't help each other? It's normal for brothers and sisters and stuff to fight and argue. But in the end, that's your blood. That's your family. You have to support, forgive, appreciate, and love your family because that's all you have. What's another lesson that we can learn from this story? What did anyone else learn from this story? What do you think? For me, one other lesson that I thought was interesting, did the Buddha tell the monks to be nice? Did the Buddha order them, stop it, don't tease him, be nice to him? What did he do? He led by example. He is the highest monk, the most powerful, yet he came down and did the simple work himself. And that made everyone want to help him. So in our lives, when you want people to change, when you want to impress people or be an example, you don't always have to tell them with your mouth. You can go down there and do it and be an example, because that example will sit in the hearts of people for a lot longer than your words will sit in their ears.